time it's still good.
I know, that's why it's funny. Okay, so let's start off. The first things we're going to cover is parabolas. So there's two versions of parabolas. So there is the x squared equals 4py, and then y squared equals 4px. And then if it's x squared, or you could think of it as y to the 1 power, you always follow the 1 power. So this would be a vertical, whether it's up or down. And the x is to the 1 power here. So this will be horizontal, whether it's right or left. And then in these questions, you need to find 3 things when you're graphing: the vertex, the focus, and it's just the focus because there's only 1 point versus the other ones have foci, 2 points, and the directrix. And then for us, because we just always focus it, vertex for us is always 0, 0. Now the focus is going to be whatever variable you're affecting. So if it's y by itself, that would be the y value affecting. If it's x to the sec affecting, it'll be the x variable. It's always going to be p. Let's do it for this in order. So for the first one over here, I'll use this purple. I'll use this as blue. For if it's vertical, it will be 0, comma p. So the y value will go up p value. And if it was negative, it technically goes down p value. And then for the horizontal, it'll be 0, or I'm sorry, p comma 0. So the x value gets affected. Okay.
Y squared or x squared determines if it's
I would say
vertical or horizontal?
yes, but technically look at this one, the single variable, to make it easier. Because then you have to think of it in reverse if you look at x squared, right? So the y by itself means you go up and down or vertical.
Okay, so y by itself.
And then x by itself will go left to right. And then if it's vertical, the directrix, it's just going to be y equals the negative of p. Then it would double negative to be positive. And then the other one is x equals negative p. And remember, if p was a negative value, then that just means you make it positive. Double negative will become positive. So let's do a very quick one. But this is the general thing. I will give you this black part, okay? This black equations, okay? You need to know how to use them, but I will give you the black equations. What's up? They're written in black here. And then this is like given basically because you know it should be 0, 0. I'm sorry, Jacob, what's up? Okay. So here's a question. Let's say it is y squared equals negative 12x. So for this one, we need to find the vertex, the focus, and the directrix.
Is any problem for this game?
Yes, a problem for this thing. So in this case, the vertex is negative 12x. So vertex is always 0, 0. Now the focus, I need to figure out what the focus is. Look at the equation. Since it is 4p, what we're going to have to do, this is equal to 4p. So negative 12 equals 4p. So we need to figure out what p is, which is divided by 4 on both sides.
What's y squared equals negative 12x?
It's just the formula.
We have to graph it?
That is the particular question I would give you. Listen. So your p value is negative 3. You would have to also graph it. But you'll have a grid line, so you could just put all the dots there. So this is going to be, since the x is by itself, it affects the x. So this is negative 3, 0. So remember, the focus is an actual like dot on the graph. And the directrix is just negative p. So what's negative 3? Positive 3. So x equals 3. Now it's x equals 3, right? So it's going to be a vertical line at the x value equals 3, okay?
You used to do x equals. have to write that, or
X
should I
equals
write
3
that?
is the correct answer,
Why is it
yes.
X and not-
If you just write 3, technically, because I don't know if it's X equals 3 or Y equals 3, so you need to
why
show
is
it.
it X or Y? How do you know?
Whatever variables by itself. So this one's X, so you affect the X's.
Whatever variable by itself.
Or-
Why is it?
I'm sorry, whatever variables to the first power, let's say that. Follow number 1, okay?
So the same thing.
So whatever the
Wait,
key
Jim.
is, do you flip it?
Say it again.
So like whatever the key is, are you always flipping it?
From the focus to directrix, yeah.
So, okay, so like.
So from here to here, yeah,
Got it.
they should be flipped. They should never be the same number, I'll tell you that.
What's the point of directric again?
It shows you what you can't get to, and then on the higher level math, we'll go over what you'd use it for, but we don't really go to that. We just graph it. Angela, you had a question? You're good. Okay. So I also have the reverse type problem where I give you
Can you graph it? Or did you?
a quick graph. So your origins would be here. So your vertex, it will always be at 0, 0 for us. The focus, which I'll do in red, is -3, 0. So 1, 2, 3 over here. Here's a dot. And then directrix, which I'll do blue, is 3, x equals 3. So a vertical line at x equals 3. You remember, when I say x equals 3, that's all the x's equals 3. 3, 0, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3. So I make a vertical line from there. Your parabola should always face towards the focus. So it should always face towards the focus.
So I just graph it, doesn't matter what size or shape it is, just draw lines.
Yeah, just draw, just don't be dumb and make like a box or something, like make it look curved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You drew it from the middle, you didn't draw it from -3.
It's supposed to be.
And it's from the middle for this one.
Focus is supposed to be in the middle.
Oh, what?
So what's the -3?
That's just the random dot.
The -3, that's the focus, which if we were to do more about this section, we would learn what we could do with the focus. For us, we just graph it. For us, we just graph it.
We're not graphing anything, though. We're not changing anything ever.
Yeah, it depends on what direction it would be. The dotted line has to be in a specific place, and this red dot has to be in a specific place.
So we're not just graphing the ellipse, we're also graphing the.
This is a parabola, so we graph the parabola, we graph the focus, and we graph the directrix. So we graph everything that we have here. Everything we find, we graph. Okay. All right. So there's a reverse type problem where I tell you the vertex is 0, 0, and the focus is, let's say, 0,
But doesn't one go back
Two?
the other way?
Jonathan, what was your question?
Doesn't another shape go back the other way?
Different shapes have different rules, so yeah. So it could be. All right, so this question, I give you points, you give me the formula. So in this case, I tell you the vertex and the focus.
So the D is -2.
So the D we could find is -2, but I'm not even care, right? All I'm asking is for the equation. So the first thing we need to look at here is what's being affected, the Y or the X?
Why?
The Y is being affected.
So x squared equals
So we know it should look like
1.
X squared equals 4PY. We know it should look like that.
Oh, so is it 2 times 4?
So we know this value is supposed to be the P value. So because we know that's the P value, I could plug in here a 2. And what's 4 times 2?
8.
So then I have X squared equals 8Y. Wait a second. X and Y is left over. That's it. That's all I need.
Oh, that's it.
That's it for that one. If I gave you focus and the directrix, or the vertex and directrix, vertex is 0, 0. Directrix is, let's say, X equals 6 in this case. Remember, what is the directrix? It's not P, but no.
Is this standard form?
It's a negative.
Yeah, these are all standard form. You haven't learned any other form, so it's all everything standard form.
Negative P.
Negative
Is
P.
it -24? I have no idea.
Isn't P -2?
Because then you have to multiply it by 4. and
So this one, the P value, since you're using directrix, it has to be the negative of this. So it's going to be -6. Oh my God, that looks like a B. -6 equals P. Oh, and then we check, since the X is here, we know it's going to be y squared equals 2px because x is being affected.
Y equals
4
two
PX.
PX. It's four
Isn't it
PX.
4 PX?
4px. I don't know why I said 2.
Right, so it only uses
Someone
four
said 2.
together,
That's fine.
And that's 24.
Mm,
6 is 4?
is
24.
negative
Oh,
24.
that's what I said the first time.
Oh,
What
my
would-
bad.
what would the focus be?
Negative
Maybe like those
24x. The focus in this case would be negative 6 comma or 0. But again, I don't ask for that. I'll ask just for the equation. So you don't really necessarily need to find a focus.
Oh my god.
All right, that's parabolas.
Wait.
No problem. Close. Cancel this.
Is that it for parabolas?
So we're on the next shape. Anyone remember what's the next shape?
Ellipse.
Even easier.
Circle.
Circles. Circles.
Four different shapes, ellipse, hyperbola, circles, and
So
parabolas.
Yeah.
G is -6.
So circles.
F is -6.
Think for us, or good for us, circles, there's only one real equation. X squared plus y squared equals r squared.
So I read it like that. but what is it?
Most of the other ones have vertical and horizontal versions. This one doesn't because the circle's the same whether you do it this way or rotate it this way.
This one was pretty simple. Huh?
This one's this is like the easiest for sure. Because this one, I'm just gonna ask for the center.
It's those 0, 0.
Yeah, and I don't even ask, I ask for what the radius is, I think. I don't even ask for points, I just ask what the radius is.
Here's a graph.
And then we graph it, yeah. But let's say the question in here, again, you'll get the equation in black. So let's say the equation here is x squared plus y squared equals 100. What is the radius in this case?
10.
10, because we got to square root it. So the radius is 10, and then the center over here is always 0, 0 for us. That's ugly, no, whatever. When you graph something like this, your center point is in the origin. Make sure you go 10 up, 10 down.
On the test, are you giving us anything that's like becomes like messy when you graph it, or I mean not, I mean.
It will always fit the
square-
graph.
I mean, sorry, when you square root it, like.
Not for graphing for sure, not for graphing for sure. Maybe for the other problem, but that's because all you do is write the equation. All right,
Do you want us to write it in decimal form if it is like random, like?
if it
we can
is, you
write it
should,
in 39?
you should write it as decimal form, so. Yeah, go ahead, what's your question?
You just solve for X and Y, or you just get X squared plus Y squared equals 100 and just square it down?
You just get 100, and there's only one variable, the one thing that changes, which is the radius. So that's the only thing you need to find. And then it's a circle, so it's really easy to graph because you just go 10 right, 10 left, 10 up, 10
So
down.
basically we just have to square root it.
That's for the graphing, it's the easiest one for sure. Because all you do is square root. There's not even like a vertical or horizontal you have to worry about. So that's the graphing the circle. Again, very straightforward. No, not even, there's no way I can make it more complicated. The second way is I give you some information. So for example, if I told you a circle where the radius is, let's say, 2 root 5. This might be the question you're asking, like, will you get a weird one like this? So,
Yes,
no,
no.
10,
One thing first.
I know. dude.
20.
I read it
20.
wrong.
Let's talk about it. All right. So in this equation, the radius I'm telling you is 2 root 5. So when I make the equation, if you notice, I need radius squared. So x squared plus y squared equals 2 root 5 squared. Guys, when I square something like this, when you square something like this, you square both pieces separately. So I distribute the square. So this gets squared and this gets squared. You could do it like, do you put root 5 and it gives you a 10?
Put parentheses 2 root 5. parentheses.
You can do it in your calculator, sure.
Wait, can I just put 2 root 5 in my calculator?
Yes, yes, but this is how you do it. So 2 squared is 4. And then square root and square root cancels out, which is 5. 4 times 5 is 20. So your final answer should be x squared plus y squared equals 20.
Do we need a graph this or no?
No, this would be, I give you the information, you give me the equation.
You didn't give us any.
I just told you radius is root 2.
Tomorrow, you just have to tell me that next Thursday is the site.
June first, he said.
God, what?
Okay.
Guys.
Guys, hey, talk about science in your own time. Hold up. I'm going over math. Now, one more problem. I tell you a point on the circle. So somewhere on this circle, the point, we'll say 4, 7 exists.
You do that, you put 4 squared plus 4 big.
Wait, can you scroll up a little bit?
So I'm telling you, 4, 7 exists on the circle. How do you find the equation? In this case, we need to find r. The best way to find r is just to plug it into our equation, x squared plus y squared equals r squared.
Oh.
So in this case, we plug in 4 for x, 4 squared. We plug in 7, 7 squared, and then we're going to find r squared. So 16 plus 49 equals r squared. Well, you could add it, right? Which is going to be 65.
It's gonna be 8.1.
You do get r by itself, but remember, I just want the equation. And what does the equation need? It just needs r squared. I don't even have to square root it for the answer.
Does that say 65 or 68?
65. So then your final answer is literally x squared plus y squared equals 65. Yeah, well, because in the equation is r squared. So you don't have to spend time square rooting. What's up?
Never mind.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So x squared plus y squared equals 65. For circles, that's all you need to find because there's only one thing missing. Yeah. So the other ones get a little complicated because sometimes there's like 2 things missing, but for parabola and for circles, there's only one thing missing, P and R respectively. For the next ones, we have A and B, which means you have to think a little bit more for that. Sam, what's up?
You're gonna give us perfect squares?
For graphing, usually I'll give you perfect squares. For the equation ones, I could give you non-perfect squares, like 2√5 is non-perfect square or whatever. For graphing, I will try to prove the perfect square. Sometimes with the focus, you don't got a choice though. All right. Next one. What's the next shape? Before that, ellipse. Ellipse, yeah.
I was gonna ask, there's a plus negative at triangle.
What's up?
Is the plus negative, plus minus at triangle my power?
Like, are you gonna require it on the test?
If I ask for the major vertices, they matter. But if I ask for like, what is A, that doesn't matter.
Isn't that,
But the major vertices are 2 separate points. That's why the plus minus matters.
isn't A meet visible?
The A will tell you, well, you use to find the major, yeah. So it's a distance, but the points that actually exist is plus or minus diversions. All right, so here's the equation. First one is x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. And then the other one is y squared over a squared plus x squared over b squared equals 1. Remember, the equation has to equal 1.
And you're giving us these equations?
You're given the black, yeah. For this, if A is bigger, A is always bigger in this case. So if A is underneath the X value, that dictates that it's going to be longer than it is taller. So it's going to be a vertical or horizontal, I'm sorry, horizontal ellipse. While when the A squared is underneath the Y squared, so A is, or the bigger number is underneath Y, that means that dictates that it's going to be more vertical than it is horizontal. So this is horizontal, this is vertical. So whatever the bigger number is dictates which way it goes, okay? Along with this, you need to know the relationship between A, B, and the focus, the C value. The equation for this part, and I will give you this also actually. A squared minus B squared equals C squared. So for ellipse, it's A squared minus B squared equals C squared. I will give you that also.
Just the opposite of a circle.
But on some of these, it's like, no, the opposite is not true.
You'll see in the next
Technically,
question where it
C
shows it.
squared equals A squared plus B squared.
Plus B squared, yeah.
On some of these, it's like focus will be 0, comma, or focus, it'd be like 0, comma 2.2.
So for this one, you need to point out the center, the major vertices, the minor vertices,
Center's over here, 0, right?
and then you got to point out the foci also. And I say foci because there's 2 points for the focus. So that's multiple foci. Now for us, the center will always be 0, 0, so that's a given. The major vertice, I'll use this one as purple and I use this one for blue. So for the major vertice, if the X has the biggest number, that is the major. So it's going to be the A value plus or minus. And since it's on the X, it will affect the X. So plus or minus A, comma 0. While if it's bigger on the Y, then that affects the Y. So in this case, it's 0, comma plus or minus A. They asked earlier, does the plus or minus matter? In this part, it does, because you have 2 coordinate points. So you have to point out both coordinate points. You'll lose half a point if you forget the plus or minus in this one.
I already know though, there's a lot of half points.
You don't do that. Just know it
I'm
now.
gonna forget.
Let's do it now, since now you're thinking about it. Now, the minor vertice is the smaller value. So it can never be the same thing. Like the major can't be X and the minor can't be X. It always has to swap. So in this case, since the A has the major, then the X will be the minor, or the Y will be the minor. So in this case, it would be 0, comma, plus or minus B. So the smaller value is your minor. And then this will be for the Y, when the Y is dominant, plus or minus B, comma 0.
So just swaps, basically.
Swaps, yeah. Now the foci is as a poser, it always follows the greatest term. So in this case, the foci will always follow the major vertice. So if the major vertice affects X, the foci affects X. Yes, major is always the bigger one in this one. So the focus will always follow the major. So if the major is X, the foci is X, and that's going to be plus or minus C, comma 0. If the major is Y, it will be Y. So it's 0, comma, plus or minus C. And here
It
I'm,
goes along with the A situation.
it goes along with the A. It's a follower. It doesn't do anything special. Don't think on its own. Okay. With that in mind, center, major, minor, foci. So let's plug it. Let's do a problem. I want to pull up the test so I can see the problem, but let's do a basic one. X squared plus, I want to make it so it's clean. So let's do 25 plus y squared over 9. Yeah, equals 1. Okay. I need my center, major, my minor, and my foci. And now I'll graph it. Okay, center, freebie points, 0, 0. The major, since the bigger one, or the major number, you can think of it like that, is on the x squared, it's going to be the x. Now it has to be the square root of 25. So it's not 25, but it's going to be 5. Go ahead, Ellie.
If it doesn't equal 1, do we have to make it equal 1 or you?
Yes, but for the graphing, I will give it to you equal 1. And then there's a problem underneath that we'll talk about that. So this is going to be plus or minus 5, 0. And I learned that from the major value over here. The minor value should be the minor of the two numbers, the smaller of the two numbers. So that's going to be the square root of 9. So that's 0, plus or minus 3. Good. Again, I will keep going to record this even if the room's empty. But if you want to stay, if you don't have a second period, assuming you don't have a second period, you got a second period, go. I'll those post this later for you guys. The focus here is going to be a squared minus b squared. I already have a squared, which is 25, minus b squared, which is 5 or 9. And that's going to give me c squared. No problem, guys. So 16 equals c squared. So 4 equals c. So my foci, since it follows my major, it's a poser, so it always follows the guy, is plus or minus 4, 0. And I'll try to keep it clean when you're graphing it, okay? There we go. Good question, Sue. Yeah, you need to find a C because you're going to graph it. In this case, since you're graphing it, you need to find a C value.
You can be during lunch.
I'll be here during lunch, but I might have a lot of freshmen because their test is today. So here, so
Thank you, Coach.
no problem. All right. So to graph this, I'm gonna move down a little bit. No problem. Hello. Sorry about that. No problem. All right. So my majors is going to be the longer points, and that's natural because it is bigger. So my majors is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you could always, when you graph it, it's kind of like a double check because it makes sense the X should be wider. My minors, what I do in blue, it'll be up 3 and down 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And my foci, again, it doesn't really affect your graph, but we would still graph it anyway. It's 4, 0. It should always be on the same line as the longest line. If it's not, you know you made a mistake or you did something weird. No problem. Then from there, we just connect the bigger dots. So here, it's okay if it kind of looks like a diamond. I'm not going to go crazy about the shape. And okay if you miss a little. But remember, it should go from the major focus vertices. Do not actually hit the foci itself, okay? The foci does not show up on the line. Let me just pull up the test. So I can... Good. Any question on that? Okay. So let's do the reverse problems. And what I'm going to do is just look at my tests to make sure I give you the right reverse problems that I give you on the actual test. Where's my attachment? There it is. Okay. Yeah. All right. So the first version I gave you. Okay, makes sense. The first one I gave you is where I told you the majors is some value. This one might not be clean, and that's okay. Let's do plus or minus. Let's do 0, plus or minus 4. And the minor is plus or minus, I'm gonna have to just write this one because I can't type square roots. Let's do 2 root 2, 0. Thanks, Violet. I'm helping them review for their test right now. Once I finish, you can come back in if you want, and I'll help you review for your test, okay?
You're not coming to create it? Oh, never mind. Oh, so you're reviewing.
Wait, were you just gonna cut your class?
What? No, I thought possibility was like you did a good job.
Okay, so I'm sorry. All right, so major is plus or minus 4, minus 2 root 2. So we need the equation. First off, since the major is the y value in this case, I know it should be y squared over a squared plus x squared over b squared, because I can see the major is the bigger one, so I know the bigger one should be underneath y. equals 1. Yeah. Well, this is the A value. So what's the square of 4? 16. So y squared over 16 plus, which means this must be the B value,
Which is x squared over 8.
which is x squared over 8.
And then we use the find for that or not?
Over 8. Wait a second. We already have everything we need for our equation. We're good. We don't need the foci.
Okay.
Give an example of, the foci and vertices.
Yeah.
You're gonna give one on the test.
Yeah, I'm looking at my test right now. I did give one. That's why I wanted to check to make sure what I give you. All right. This one is going to be, if I give you the major, I don't know why I put G. Major. I don't know. Major is going to be, let's do, I want to make sure, I just want to avoid picking the same one. Let's do 0, comma, plus or minus 13. And then let's put the foci as 0, comma, plus or minus 12. Yeah, that's fine.
I have to write the equation and find the minor.
You just need to find the equation, but the minor will help you find the equation. So we're going to find it along the way. Or we need to find the B value, more importantly.
What's the equation called? It's on
Mm,
the, it was like in standard form.
They're all standard form. This should be also called the standard form. This A y squared over A squared. Well, in this case, I have the A value and I have the C value. But what do I need in the equation? I don't need C, I need B. So I'm going to use the foci equation, if you want to call it a name. So I'm going to have to use A squared minus B squared equals C squared.
But with the 13 is
We
not
have to just
even
like
square root.
divide, like put it in. Yeah, I don't know.
You have to do a little algebra, yeah. So in this case, 13 squared, which is 169, minus B squared, I don't know what that is yet, equals C squared, which is 12 squared or 144.
So it's 144 minus 169.
Yeah, which is going to be 25.
So then it's -5.
So it's negative 25, but it's negative B squared equals negative 25.
So it's +5.
So B squared equals 25, which you could find the B value to be 5. But remember, I don't even need the B value because in the equation, it's just B squared.
Yeah.
So I don't even need that. I could just stop
The
at 25.
major is, so it's gonna be x squared over,
Okay. Sorry, my dad left my car empty, so I had to actually
No,
fill
no.
the gas.
You don't- oh,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. So x squared
over 169
over 169.
plus y squared
Oh.
over 25.
Sorry, the major is on the y, right?
Oh,
So it shouldn't be
y-
x in the front.
It's y squared.
It's y squared in the front. Y squared at the front over 169
X squared over 25 or
plus x squared over 25
equals 1.
equals 1. Should always equal 1.
Well, you do have points if I forget to write them.
That's part of the equation, so
Wow.
I would take a half for that.
I'm
Oh, wait,
so
it'll
good.
be on the board, right? You're putting that equation on the board.
I'm putting
Like,
this black stuff on the board on
Yeah,
top of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So you should know it always equals 1. But it's very important, it always equals 1, which doesn't show up that only matters in the next page. You'll see a problem where it's not equal 1. How do we make it equal 1 to make it
We're
work?
doing that?
That will be for the hyperbola, yeah,
Okay.
which should be on the review sheet too. Like I have problems with that. Okay.
there's only one thing.
Oh, don't you just like divide all of it by like whatever? and then
Yeah,
just-
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It's not that
That's
hard.
the
to
last
fix.
thing on the test.
This is the last shape, yeah.
Wait, is major A, minor is B, over C?
For the previous one, yes.
So why don't I say that had information, it's like. Okay.
Hyperbolus is a little different. It feels the same, but it's a little different.
How do you,
For a long time, do we have to like graph the numbers? We don't do graph this.
Graph the what?
No, if you're finding the
Oh,
equation, then you don't graph it.
Yeah, yeah, if you
So
find the
now I
equation,
can't put it
unforce it.
on the review stuff, there was, it used the word like vertices and verticals, whatever, but how do you?
It used vertices and co-vertices, my fault. So vertices would be the big one, major, and co-vertices the minor. That's my fault because I use different verbiage from the book, but yeah. But vertice, if it just says vertice, that's the major, and co-vertices would be the minor one. So it's like captain and co-captain versus major minor. All right, hyperbolas. Two equations. There's the vertical and horizontal again. If it is x squared, well, which way did I go first last time? Did I do horizontal first? Yeah, okay. So x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals 1. So the little difference here is the minus in between. And that would be horizontal. So it would look something like this. And the other one, which is y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared equals 1, which is vertical, which should look like this. So they're going up and down versus left and right. I should say they open up and down versus left and right. And the formula for the focus is almost the same, but is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And again, I will give you that. Either I will put it on the board or I'll print out a piece of paper, but
You want to make a piece of paper formats, I think just easier to like deal with.
I know, yeah. It's just that I'm so busy sometimes I forget to
makes
print
sense.
it and then I'll just write on the board real quick. Okay. All right, in these questions, we're going to need to find, let me open it up to make sure I accurately just describe what I need to find. The vertices, well, I guess the center, the vertices, and this one is just vertices, because there's no minor vertice here. The foci, and the new one, the asymptote. Oh, I click something, asymptote. Horizontals could be purple, and then verticals would be blue. Center, always 0, 0. The vertices, if it's the x value that's in the positive, not necessarily have to be a bigger number, but it's in the positive, then it's going to be plus or minus the a value, 0. If the y is on the positive, not necessarily the bigger number, but positive, it's going to be 0, plus or minus a. So very similar to the major vertices from the previous question, okay?
What do you mean?
So let's say if we're going to do this example later, x squared over 16 minus y squared over 25 equals 1. In this case, even though a squared is smaller, 16 is smaller than 25, is the positive one. So you have to think of it as positive 16 compared to negative 25. So that's why I don't describe it as bigger or smaller here, okay? And that's why I avoid using major, because it's not necessarily the most major number. Foci is still a poser, so it still follows the major vertice, or the vertice only one left. So it's going to be plus or minus c, 0, and 0, plus or minus c. So still follows the major guy.
Y equals,
And the asymptotes, what's up?
or Y equals A over B X.
So it's always going to be, this will always be consistent. Y equals something X. If it's horizontal, I don't like thinking it like this way. So I'm going to tell you what it is, but then I'll tell you how to think about it. It would be, if it's horizontal, B over A. If it's vertical, it would be A over B. But I don't like thinking of it this way. Instead, think of it as my Y values on top. So in this case, Y is with the B in this case, while here, the Y value is on top. So A is with the Y value. And think of my X value, what goes with my X is on bottom. Think of it as rise over run. That will be easier to remember than remembering, oh, is it B over A or A over B, vertical, horizontal? That's annoying. Don't think of it like that, okay? And the only equations I'm giving you is this parts on top, okay? So I'm not giving the asymptote because that's why I'm
How do we
putting
know whether to put the X and the Y on top?
y always on top.
Oh.
Y always on top, no matter where it
Oh,
is,
got it.
okay? So let's do this one on the right. X squared over 16 minus y squared over 25 equals 1. We need a center, we need a vertice, we need the foci, and we need the asymptote. Go away. There you go. Center, always freebie, 0, 0. Vertices, I follow the positive in this case. So the positive in this case is 16. I'll do it in purple. It's 16.
So plus or minus 4, 0.
Good. So it's going to be plus or minus 4, 0. The center here, or the foci, I'm sorry, the foci here, I need to find the C value. So I have to use the foci equation. So a squared, which is 16, plus b squared, which is 25,
Is it negative like one?
equals c squared. Well, you could think of b to be -5, but the d squared becomes positive. So we just do a plus b. So 16 plus 25 is 41. I'm sorry, this one's not clean on the test. I will make sure it's clean. But this one, the square root of 41 is about 6.3, 6.4-ish maybe. Yeah. So for this one, since the foci is 6.4-ish, we're going to do plus or minus 6.4, 0. And again, on the test, it will be clean numbers. I'm sorry, it's not clean. So the asymptote y equals, again, I don't want to think of it as BAAB. That's the official form. Let's just think of it. Which one's the y value in this case? The 25.
So it's -5.
So I'm just going to have, it's going to be, oh, I'm sorry, the asymptote should have plus or minus. If you forget the plus or minus an asymptote, I won't count that wrong. But plus or minus 5 over, what's the x value? Since it's 16, it's going to be 4. So 5 over 4x. And I'm going to use space, give this space to graph it a little bit. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3,
But isn't
4.
it 4, not 5? Like, oh, they're better.
I just want to make sure I have enough space. And then I need up to 6, or I guess up to 7, I guess technically. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So first, let's do the center 0, 0, but that doesn't really matter. The vertex is 4, 0. So that's 4 left and 4 right. So 4 to the left and 4 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. The focus is 6.4 to the left, 6.4 to the right. Again, if you have your focus and your vertex going different directions, you made a mistake. 5, 6, so a little bit past 6. Okay. Your asymptotes, it's going to be from the center origin, the slope 5 over 4, which remember is rise over run. So I'm going to go up 5 and right 4. Up 5, right 4. Up 5, left 4. Down 5, right 4. And down 5, left 4. If you do it correctly, it kind of should make like a box if you connect the dots. But we're going to crisscross them because they're asymptotes. So these are lines that the parabola cannot cross. Yeah, it's rise over run. And since you're doing positive and negative, you go every direction. Up 5, right 4, up 5, left 4, down 5 from the center. Or in this case, the origin, because our center is always the origin. This is the only one where I care a little bit about the graphing. Your parabola, or I'm sorry, your hyperbolas, which are 2 parabolas, starts from the vertex. It should get close to the asymptote and then go next to it, okay? Close to the asymptote, go next to it. Like that's really close. But that's very important. Please don't go past the asymptote. Nor Don't go like, don't even get close to the asymptote. Just get close, and I'm not gonna like be like, oh, you touch the blue, you lose a point. I'm not gonna be like that, but close and asymptote if possible. Okay. That's the only one I care about, the little bit of the fidelity of your graph. And that's how you graph it. Two more problems, the reverse problems where I ask you for equations and stuff. Oh, I'm gonna have to remove this one. All right. So this one, I guess, would be the only one where I ask you for all the pieces, but I give you an equation. So let's do this one. Let's do, let me show you it works. 16y squared minus 4x squared equals 64.
So you got everything by 4.
And then this one, I would ask you to please just give me the vertices, the focus, and the asymptotes on this type of question. I will not ask you to graph this because you already did a graphing in the previous one, okay? But you're still gonna give me all the pieces. Now you're looking at it, you're like, wait, this is not in the form I know. In the form you know, it always equals 1. That is the ultimate goal. So I don't care what works or what doesn't, if it's clean or not, you have to make it equal 1. For you guys, it will be clean, but you have to make it equal 1. So that means everything is going to be divided by 64 because you have to make it equals 1. 16 over 64 reduces to y over 4. 4 over 64 reduces to good x over 16, x squared over 16. And then 64 over 64, the reason we did this, it becomes 1. Once it looks like that, then we just do our standard stuff that we did in the previous question. Vertex is based off the positive one, and it's on the y, so it's 0, comma, plus or minus 2. The focus on this one's going to be really hard to make clean, so I apologize. I don't think I can make this one clean, but it's going to be a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 4 plus 16 equals c squared. So that's going to be 20 equals c squared. Square root of that. It's a little bit beyond 4, between 4 and 5. So I'll say like 4.5-ish c. Again, you can use your calculator to get the estimate. It might be 4.4 or something like that. So it's going to be 0, comma, plus or minus 4.5. And then the asymptote, so the vertical lines, it's always y over x. So y equals, the y value here is 4, and the x value here is 16. So it should be 2 over 4 x. And then since we could simplify it, let's simplify it. Yes, plus or minus 1 over 2x. This is only plus or minus. I will not take a point off, you forget. These points do matter though. I will not ask you to graph this because in the previous question I already asked you to graph. You already proved that you could graph it, but you're just getting points here. This is more testing. Do you remember it has to equal 1? Okay. And then the last problem, I will give you some pieces. For example, if the vertices is plus or minus 5, comma 0, and the foci is plus or minus 7, comma 0. I have to change the question on the test. I just used the same question.
Oh.
I mean, maybe I will forget, who knows. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the vertex here is the vertices, not vertex. The vertices is plus or minus 5. Remember, this gives me my a value. And I know because it's affecting the x value, it should look like x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals 1. So I know it should look like that because this is affecting the x value. The vertices is affecting the x value. So plus or minus 5
Is 25.
this is 25. So we know the a value should be 25 here eventually, but we need the b value. But I don't have a b value here. I have the a value and I have the c value. So I need to figure that out. So 25
b squared
Is
equals 49.
Minus these,
Plus in the hyperbole ones.
So then 49,
B
49
squared,
minus
25 is 24.
the square root of 24.
Now, we could get the square root of 24, but remember, in the graph, you just need b squared. So I don't even want the square root of 24. So it's just 24. So you just rewrite it. X squared of 25 minus y squared over 24 equals 1.
That's it.
Yay, that's it. Isn't that simple?
So that's all the problems.
That's all the type of problems you will receive on the test. No problem. Sorry, guys, for being late again.
All good. Thank you.
Of course.
I understand your dad left you high and dry.
It happens.